Joe Reardon.
Hey,
And
Colton,
here
how
I
you
am,
doing?
Colton Lindsay, your host. I'm doing great, man. Welcome to the Winning Series interviews. Today, guys, we've got superstar, rock star, awesome dude, dad, realtor, team leader, Joe Reardon from Century 21 Everest, right?
Yep.
In Salt Lake City, Utah. Joe,
Yep.
tell us a little bit in 1 minute about yourself.
Okay. 1 minute. Real nutshell. Okay. Grew up in California. Went to undergrad at Northwestern University. Moved to New York. Had a master's at Manhattan School of Music. Professional musician for years. Became an investor in 2000. Moved out to Utah in 2007. Became a licensed real estate agent. Bam.
That's it in a nutshell. So what is your background? What is your background before you got into real estate, before you got into investing? Tell us your background. What did you go to school for?
Yeah. So I'm a professional trumpet player, and I went to Northwestern for undergrad, and I studied with the guy in the Chicago Symphony, and then I went to Manhattan School of Music for grad, and I studied with the guy who was principal trumpet in the New York Philharmonic for years, a guy named Phil Smith. And we lived in New York, and my wife and I actually met while we were both playing Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, which is kind of crazy.
Whoa! I didn't know you
started
played
dating.
Beauty and the Beast on Broadway.
Yeah, we played tons of different Broadway shows, and so we actually met before that, but we started dating while we were both, playing Beauty and the Beast on Broadway.
Dude, so I just found out I have a friend that has been on Broadway multiple times. That's freaking awesome.
Well, in the pit.
I knew you were really into
but
the symphony and trumpet. Well, you were playing there, whatever. I don't know what a music person does in general, but you were there for sure, right?
Yeah. We were down in the pit, and and I don't have a lot of time now to do it, but I still do sub a little bit of the Utah Symphony here and do some recording work occasionally.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of hard, as you know, real estate is a time-consuming profession.
Okay, nice. So I'm going to hold on 1 second, Joe. I think I'm having a problem right here with my link. Hold on 1 second. So actually, let's keep going. This is recorded. So tell me about you got into real estate investing. What year was that?
So that was in 2000, and in New York City, and we ended up getting a 3-family brownstone in Harlem. It was kind of urban pioneering out there at that time. We bought a place, and it was a place where we had 10 to 12 different places that were still boarded up on the block. Actually, probably more than that. Probably like 15. I don't know. I'm just trying to remember. 15 to 20 that were probably boarded up on the block when we secured this property, and then by the time we sold that property in beginning of 2007, everything had been remodeled and rehabbed. There was no longer any boarded up properties in the entire block. This is in Harlem on 149th Street. So it was really kind of the Harlem Renaissance.
Did you guys ever do the Harlem Shake as part of that?
Nah, not so much, but it was a great place to live. The whole area had been really revitalized. When I moved to New York in '92 to do my master's, and at that time, that was probably a block that I probably would not have really wanted to set foot on. And by the time we left, I mean, it was such an awesome block, and there's so much diversity, and it was a great place. It was a really great place. But we did the big life change, as you can see. You moved to Utah from Manhattan, which is about, I mean, you can't get much more extreme than that. So
what brought you to Utah? Why Utah, out of all the places?
Yeah, that's
Manhattan,
a great question. My brother, so I was living in New York City, and my brother was living in LA. And my brother was actually moving out here to Utah. He was relocating part of his business, and actually his business. And we said, well, that's great. We'll go hang out with you, go out for like 5 days and hang out, and help you find a house, and be able to our chance to see you guys hang out and kind of do all that. And I had been out to Utah as a musician a little bit, but not too much really. And
what year did you move to Utah?
Well, we bought the house in 06. We ended up moving here in 07. So we got out here and it was like, oh my God, it's beautiful here. So we ended up buying the crazy, because this for us is not kind of really the way we do things, but we actually we had thought about maybe getting out of New York, but on that trip, we actually put a house under contract, ended up buying that house, which is nuts for us.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, because we have a special needs daughter, and we thought, we really kind of thought about, living in New York is not, it's difficult. You put up with a lot of stuff that in some ways you don't put up with in the whole, rest of the country. And we came out here, we're like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful, which it is. And we live in a area called Draper, which is a really nice, suburb kind of Salt Lake, and it's a really good quality of life. We like it.
And your first winter, you're probably like, oh my gosh, this inversion is amazing here. We love it, right?
Yeah, well, the inversion is probably really the only drawback to living in this area. And the cool thing is at least that it only lasts for maybe a month and a half or two. It's not,
Well, this last year we didn't have that much at all, really.
No, we had really nothing this winter. It was almost nothing at all. But there was 2 or 3 years ago where it was pretty bad there for about 45 days. It was like, oh my gosh.
Dude, yeah, I remember it was a couple of years ago. It was really bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I gotta send this link real quick. I don't know what's going on. The link I sent out to some people got goofed, so let me send it real quick. So 2006, when you got here, did you just automatically start into real estate investing?
Okay, so we actually bought the house in 06. We actually moved here in 07. I ended up doing a couple different things for about 2 to 2.5 years. I was a principal in a short sale company and a principal in a property management company. But then I really got into selling retail real estate in 2010, and that's really kind of taken off, and that's what I do. I'm a retail real estate guy. So retail real estate, you were into short sales, running that, and I remember I met you at. How did I meet you? It was a transaction we did. You had we actually had an SOI guy who was up in Sunset, I think, right? Yeah, and you and I met on a transaction, and it was good because we had assistants who were really on top of it and were like putting together really good emails. And we thought, wow, these it's great when you find someone who's actually really running a good business and it's got good people in place and is producing good communication back and forth. And unfortunately, it's not that common. So kind of see that. I think you and I met and just started talking, kind of became friends from there.
And with that being said, when I think I wrote an offer on your listing, and you were offering me 2.5%, and I said, Joe, hey man, you got to pay me a full 3. It's part of the offer.
Interesting. I don't really like to do that. The guy that was selling that house had a really intense thing happen in his life.
He had some stuff.
Yeah, he did.
He had
it was, and he's
a plane accident or something, right?
Yeah, he had a bunch of stuff happen in his life, and I was just really helping him. He's a personal friend. He's a tremendous guy, and he had a bunch of stuff happen, and we were just trying to really help him get rid of it at that time. It was just so it's one of these things you run into someone and you got to help him out, and we wanted to just do whatever we could to just help him get rid of the place for him, and it was a good deal.
That's how we met. Mm-hmm. We started role playing.
Yeah, we did.
Then you invited me to a sleepover, and I invited you to a sleepover or something, and we had a sleepover in San Diego, right? Or was it San Diego?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because we went to the Mike Ferry one-on-one.
We went to
roommates in San Diego for that. Yeah, that was a good time. That was fun.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how we started, and so let's go back. What year did you start actively selling real estate here in Utah?
So when I think about really actually just selling real estate was probably 2000. It was 2010. So
2010. Mm-hmm. And what time of year? 2010.
It was kind of about the beginning of the year. I was kind of getting out of the short sale business. I was able to actually pick up a couple. I had probably 3 or 4 that closed were short sales that I went through the process on that. And then I was able to pick up 2 or 3 bank-owned properties that year, just by trying to, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I was just trying to generate business and just trying to move, just try to get a little bit better. And I actually honestly had no idea what I was doing. And I just knew I had to get business, and I was just doing it. And so in 2010, I sold 14. And then I came over to where I am now in 2011 in end of January and started kind of trucking from there. Got introduced to Mike Ferry, learned a lot of stuff from there. And then, things have kind of grown from that point.
First year in real estate, how many transactions?
So if I call it 2010, which is pretty much it was 14 that year in 2010.
How many?
And 14 deals, not very many. In 2010.
14 deals. So you didn't retire the
No,
first year.
no. And if you remember like 2010 was a crazy year. It was still pretty awful here. And I had no idea what I was doing. The next year I came over to where I am now at Century 21 Everest and really started learning about being an agent, learning about those skills that I had really good knowledge of real estate, but I had to learn investor skill. I mean, I had to learn sales skills. I had to learn a lot of those other things. And so George Morse over here is a great guy. I've learned a ton from him. Fantastic broker. Really consider him one of really a key person in my life. He really helped me. So that first year there in 11, I did 24. 2012, I did 39. 2013, I did 50. 2014, I did 62. And then this year, we have 2 goals. We have a kind of a must-hit goal of 80, and then we have a flex goal of 100. And we're on pace to definitely do the 80. I think there's a really, really good possibility that we're gonna hit the 100. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Where are you guys at year to date?
Year to date, by the end of this month, I think we're going to be. Let's see. Give me a second. Look at that. 30. At the end of May here, we're going to be at 30. I think 35, and then we'll be. I think in June we've got 6 or 7. Then I've got a couple others I think that'll fall hopefully in the next 2 or 3 days. Hoping to close about 8.
Wait, so you're at how many closed right now?
And by the end of this month of May, we'll be at 35. And then
you sucker, dude, you're freaking crushing it.
Well, I mean, it's good. I mean, I think we'll do a lot better the second half of the year. And so we should hit over 40 for sure through the end of June. It's weird. I mean, as you know, you never know. I mean, we can have you could have 10 close in a month, and then next month you might close 5. And my goal right now is what I really want to do is I really want to get to a place where I know I'm closing 10 every month for sure. That would be kind of like a baseline standard. That's what I'm moving towards, and knowing that and kind of having that as like kind of a minimum standard for our team.
That's awesome, dude. So I want to pause for a second. If you guys were actually able to get on, I know we haven't. We had some problems with the links. Make sure you can go to, if you're watching it on the Google Hangout page, I've opened up the questions so you can put some questions there. If you're watching it on the Winning Series interview page, make sure to go ahead and start putting your questions down in the post below, the thread below. So we'll be opening up the questions. So now let's kind of fast forward here, and we're talking 2015, on track for a minimum of 80, probably going to do 100 deals. What's the makeup of the Joe Reardon sales team?
So the makeup of the team as it currently is right this minute, there's 4 of us. There's me, and then Alicia and Mike, who are 2 assistants, and then Jess, who works as a showing agent. So it's the 4 of us right now. And
okay,
that's it.
What is one thing that this year you've got to just get great at, whether you individually or the team, the business, to really hit that 100-unit goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was just at a conference last week, and one of my main takeaways from that was that I really need to get my team is great. It's a great team. And I kind of look around here at the office. I feel like I'm a very, very good team leader. I was exposed to, I was at a conference last week. It's called the Core, and I was over there, and I'm a member of that group, and which is a great group.
What is
and
the Core?
The Core is a training program for lenders and realtors, and it's a fantastic group. And the main thing that I learned, that I realized that I could do it. We're actually having a meeting, if you can believe this, on Monday. We're meeting on Memorial Day from 8:30 to 11, and my wife is like, "You're such a slave driver. I can't believe you're." But no, we felt like we had to have it, separate. We're doing it. We're actually doing it with the office will be closed, but we're bringing in food. We're going to sit there for 2.5 hours. We're just going to go over about, we have a list of things we're going to implement to tighten up our systems, our structures, our team. Part of it is me. I need to let go of some things. I think you can understand that, Colton. You get to things where you're like, I really want to let go of it, but I feel like you're digging in. And so you got to trust your team. And then, so I feel that I've got about some things we're going to implement that will really allow me to stay more in green time, because that's the key. If I can stay in green time, say, 5 to 6 to 7 hours a day, and deal with issues, maybe 1 to 2 to 3 hours a day, that's the difference. That's what will allow us to really hit that. And I think that's the main thing right now.
So, what is that? Your text message?
I just my phone thing. I thought I'd turned it off. It's off now.
So, looking back, what would you say is the one thing from 2010 to 2015 that ultimately just drove your business to where it's at today? Just think of one thing.
One thing. I think to be perfectly honest, in 2010, it was a question where it was like, at that point, I have a really good why. Okay. I have a special needs daughter, and
pretty good why.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that she is taken care of, and so I've got big goals for that, to make sure those things happen. And in 2010, it was really like I have to make this happen. It was kind of like there's no choice, and I'd come out of these other businesses, and I really had to move things forward. So I had this powerful why, and I had to make it happen. But then it was 2010. It was just, I literally didn't know what I was doing. I just had to make things happen, and it was just kind of running around with my head cut off and just trying to figure it out. And I had no clue, and I had no model. Then I came over here, and then I started to be able to get some semblance of a model file. I got exposed to Mike Ferry, and since then I've got exposed to a lot of different other things. So I think it was kind of the desperation, but I don't know if I'm answering the question right, but that's what it was at the beginning, was like really having a powerful why, and know I'm going to make this happen. And then we can talk about from there.
I think what's interesting, Joe, one of the things that in my masterminds and on these interview series, and when people ask me, I am obviously, I'm a Kool-Aid drinker now at KW, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the big things that Gary Keller has painted, that as long as I've known the Keller Williams industry or market or whatever, is know your big why. But the challenge that I've seen with a lot of people in this why is they've anchored that why to a giant new boat or a new house or
you are so right.
All these things, right? And I want to point out to the viewers, Joe's why is probably one of the best whys you can think of, because he anchored it directly to his daughter, who obviously with special needs, it's a lot of work, I can imagine, as being a parent. And so it's not really about you. Right? Am I fair to say that your why has?
You're 100% correct. And I've had this. That is probably, if someone can take this away from this call, I think that's probably the most important point. And we should probably spend at least a minute and have a quick chat about this. The most important whys are things that are outside of yourself. Okay, let me say it again. The most important whys are about things that are outside of yourself. Okay. I think as agents who do a lot of business, agents that are really driven people, a lot of driven people, okay, are by nature there's a guy named Todd Screama. He's the owner of Summit Funding, who's just an unbelievable businessman. And I was in a class with him a week before last, and he said this, and we all laughed. He's like, we're all so narcissistic. And there's some truth to that. And I think what we need to do, we need to become better human beings, and we need to find those whys that are outside of ourselves, because those will give us the ability to really grow, become better people. And those are things that are truly important. I mean, having a boat is great, but doing something that's going to change another person or the world or something like that, those are truly things that are important. And I mean, obviously we're doing this, we are trying to make money. And Colton, you have a nice house, I have a nice house, that's great. And those are great things, and we like those things, but those are not what is really important. And I think if we can figure out what is really important and solidify and anchor that why in one of those things, that is more than 50% of the game. Because I see a lot of agents here like, oh my gosh, I see you really work hard. And I'm like, yeah, because you know what? It's important. It's not about me getting a boat. It's important what I'm doing. And so I think I'm really passionate about that. And I think that is probably one of the most important things I think people could hopefully take from this.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up so clear. I've been trying to share that message with this. Well, the whole thing with winningtheinnergame.com is we have these inner challenges, obviously the mindset challenge, the rejection challenge. And for me, what really gets me past that is it's not about me. And it took me a while to get this. It never was about me, never has anything to do with me. It's about what value can I create for other human beings, other people? How can I increase their life? And do you know who Derek Lipsky is? You ever heard of Derek Lipsky?
Yeah, I've heard of him. I don't really, I know that name.
So he's got a pretty big following with his YouTube, and he goes by Mr. Soul. He's Keller Williams agent in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And he has videos of him just handling some gnarly expired calls to appointments. But he flew out to speak. Red X flew him in this last week to speak at a corporate event. And so I've become good friends with him. I picked him up at the airport, hung out with him a little bit, and I made a video about this. My first two real life experiences with this guy is one was, and Salt Lake City, we got a fair amount of panhandlers, and he's from Easton, close to Boston, Massachusetts. And so he said that they actually have more here in Salt Lake than they're used to there in Boston, according to him.
What? Okay? Really?
That's what he told me. And first corner, I'm just paying attention, and he whips out, I thought it was a $5 bill, he whipped out a $20 bill and handed it to her. Sign said single mother of 3 or something, right? And I asked about that because there's always been this debate. Do you give to those panhandlers? Do you not give to me? He says, I don't care what they do with it. Honestly, I have something to give, and this person obviously needs something, whether it's money or not. It's the fact that I can give. Literally 20 minutes later, downtown City Creek, where it's got on Main Street, it's got the tracks. I'm walking across. We were going to go find a place to eat. I watched Derek, something you only hear about in movies or stories, literally help a little old lady cross the tracks with her walker, right? Crossed Main Street. And to me, the first two things I experienced with this guy is who had nothing. I mean, I only know him through real estate. He was just about helping other people every step of the way in his life. And it was just so cool to really get centered in and be like, holy crap, Colton, what are you doing right now to help other people? So I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. And you're right, dude. And I think I think we're blessed to be in real estate. We have the ability to really help people make a difference in their lives. I mean, helping someone get a house that is a good deal, for them. I mean, it can really change their life. There's a person I helped, I don't know what year this is. It was 11 or 12. I think it was 11 that, they didn't make that much money. They were renting. We got them into a foreclosure. That was a screaming deal for them. And the bus was right outside of the house, so you could take the bus to work from there. It was an affordable payment for them. And The house needed a little work, but it was a situation that, if they waited a couple more years, I mean, it would not have happened for them. And I had a conversation with them. We keep in touch, obviously, hopefully with all our clients, like everyone. And we had a conversation later, and I was talking to, and it was like, hey, we just refinanced the house. We got rid of the MI. We now, our value is up, was really literally like $70,000. And then their payment dropped even further. I mean, and this is probably a situation they might not have ever been able to get into a house. I mean, they just didn't make that much money, and it was a perfect thing. And being able to do something like that, I mean, that really changed that person's life, and that feels really great. And to have those experiences, and you got to figure out you're here to really make a difference in someone's life, and if you can you have to understand that and make that part of what your why too is to drive really truly making a positive impact on someone's life. And I think that then when you're prospecting can take you through some of these things where you got people that are, if you're calling a FSBO or expired, I mean, a lot of these FSBOs, I mean, they honestly, Colton, you and I have talked, they need our help. Sometimes they don't think they need our help, but in most cases they actually need our help. And I think so some of that mindset of how you approach it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've noticed with winning the inner game and being so involved with Fearless Agent, the Fearless Agent movement, is I've had a lot of agents just send me emails and messages, say, hey, Colton, thank you so much. Without what you guys are sharing with these interviews and masterminds, I would have got out of the business, but now I'm actually producing in real estate. To me, that's been one of the coolest things that I've seen, is be able to help other agents be able to.
That's awesome.
Because it is a lot of work. What would you say, 95% of the agents get licensed will fail out of this business? Is that?
I think it's something like that. And I think in our market, you're in a little different market than I am. We're you're just north of me. And what is it? I mean, the average agent, according per year, does something like 2 to 4 deals, the average per licensee.
Yeah, 4 deals or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. And now, of course, we have a lot of people that are part-time. And we have a lot, but it's not a huge amount of deals. And and I think part of that too is that there's not, I mean, I was really lucky to come over to the office I'm at. It's a great office, great broker, great environment.
Your office like the #1 Century 21 in the country or something?
It's the #1 Century. If you take about an individual office, the #1 Century 21 office in the entire world. It's country in the world.
Entire world.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and there's I think there's about, gosh, I'm looking. I think there's about 300 agents here. I can't remember the last count, but it's a really good environment. And and I think you've got a good environment in your office too. KW's got some great places, great offices, and they have a great environment too. And I think part of that's important, and part of that's truly rare I think, Ray, you would agree, right? That's pretty rare in the business, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, one of the things that I think is cool about with Century 21 in general that I've noticed, because I was a Century 21 agent when I first started out, and they were in an older school model, but I think the new president, especially hooking up with Mike Ferry, whether you agree with Mike Ferry organization or not, has really got to the roots of, hey, yes, we need coaching with our agents. Yes, we need prospecting with our agents. It's not like we can sit back and twiddle our thumbs and just inner office sell stuff like they used to in the 80s and the 90s, right? You've got to get on the phones. You've got to be different. I don't know if are you doing direct mailers right now?
We do, yeah. We mail to a large database, and I'm also starting a farm actually for the first time ever. And we do mailings.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your farm.
Well, I got a farm. It's we're actually just starting it right now. We've done I'm trying to approach it a little differently, and that's something I mean, I think like everyone, I wanted to start a farm like where I live. I live in Draper, and it's a nice area. The funny thing is, where I live, I get like 10 postcards a month. I don't know how many you get where you are, but I get like 10 postcards a month for different agents about different things and everything. And I mean, that's a lot. But the funny thing is,
I've never got one at my house ever.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well,
Ever.
we get where I am, I get inundated. The funny thing is I started pulling the numbers for my subdivision, and there were only like 3 sales in my subdivision. Now, granted, most of those are going to be 500,000 and up, which in our market, you know, where the median is like, you know, 225 or something. Those are good sales, but I mean, I'm looking at that going, I don't think that makes sense. I mean, you're going to have to capture, I mean, at least one of those, but I mean, 3 in my whole subdivision, it's not moving. So I think people need to be strategic how they do that. And I mean, I'm obviously not an expert. I'm just starting this now, but I think you're gonna have to be strategic and look at places where actually homes are selling, and that there's not a dominant agent in that market, in that area. And if you can do that, I think you've got a chance to be successful. But I know some great agents that are doing it, and they're successful, but they're, you know, it's a process. It's like a year-long process. So I think you have to be strategic how you do it, and just not like just throw mailers out there willy-nilly. I think you're going to be, that's not really profitable.
You've got to be consistent. You got to pick the area that you're going to mail to, and you got to keep mailing them and mailing them and mailing them. It's not like 1 or 2 postcards is going to get you a bunch of business, right?
Absolutely, because I think a lot of agents do it, and they do it, and after like the 3rd or 4th time, like, this isn't working. I know a couple agents across the country that are doing it and doing great with it, but they're like, you know, yeah, I didn't get my first thing until it was like 11 months. But then I know one agent who's in, she's in Virginia, who's really good with it. And she literally, there's a subdivision there. She owns that subdivision. And she probably does 15 deals a year that are 400 plus or something like that in that subdivision. I mean, it's like, I mean, if the house comes up, she's getting it. It's a no-brainer. And so, I mean, but she was also, you know, she was tactical the way she did it. And I think that's what people have to do. And we'll see how it works with me.
So I want to just kind of change gears a little bit to 85 to 100 deals. What percentage of those buyers, what percentage of those are sellers?
Okay, good question. So up to this year, I was usually always about 2/3 listings, 1/3 buyers. And this year, right now, I'm probably verging on 50-50. And I think I'll probably be about that. I decided to make a change in my team. I had a really good buyer's agent who took off, and but then I decided, instead of hiring a buyer's agent, I decided I was going to hire really kind of a showing agent who's on my team, who's on salary. And so with that, I feel like I know I'm good at converting the leads, the buyers, talking to people, and I can get her out showing the houses as part of my team. We work together, and that's the whole thing I'm selling them, which is really the truth. We're working together as a team to get these deals done, and so we're going to do a lot more buyer deals, and I think we're going to be, which, I mean, is interesting. I think it's more the KW model, where it's like a 50-50 instead of the Mike Ferry model, which is more like kind of like a, you know, 60 to 70% listing versus buyer. But you know what?
Yeah,
man, the buyers pay great. You just have to have a good system and process, you know,
to run it,
to do that. Yeah,
that's what I've noticed, because 2012, that's what I did. It was me and Sarah, and I did 52 deals that year, and we were probably 90% sellers, right? Just
wow,
all sellers. This year, I'm probably about 60% sellers and 40% buyers. We've really done a lot more buyers, but that's the last couple of years. When I brought Garrett on, we started him as just making calls, moved him as a showing agent, and doing some market stuff. But the showing agent, man, I think is a way better model than just bringing on a bunch of buyer agents.
I totally agree for a couple different reasons. One, because you can have a cost in there that you can control. You're keeping more of the commission. You do have a fixed cost there. You're gonna have a salary, and which is fine, and then probably a small bonus, and that's kind of the way we do it.
So is that what you do? You pay a salary, then a small bonus per close transaction?
Smaller and a small bonus when we make our team goal on a monthly basis, not on each transaction. So I want them invested in the team. I want them invested in the team. I want them to be driven. We're all trying to work together as a team, and that's what I'm really selling, and to them and to everyone, because that's the best way. The other thing is that in the past with buyer's agents, when I turned something over, all of a sudden I realized, like, oh my gosh, by the end, even if I was kind of calling, it ended up kind of being their client. And I want, I mean, you know what, you and I, we're working really hard. And those ones that are my clients I'm turning over, I want them to be my clients still. So in this way, I am more involved in the transaction, which is good and bad. It's good because I retain the client, and there's a little bit more time from that standpoint. But I think it's a way better model in terms of keeping them as clients, because we want to keep these clients for life and really work with them forever, and be able to get referrals from them and treat them with, you know, world-class service, and you know, and loving on those relationships with them.
Okay, I want to just say, if you're watching this video, make sure to start posting any questions that you have just in the thread below or on the comment or the question section on Google Hangouts. Just want to remind you guys. So of the amounts of, let's talk about percentage of where your transactions come from. What percentage comes from referrals, past clients, FSBOs, expired, sign calls, those things?
Okay, so my transactions now, this is changed, and I think this is probably hopefully a natural evolution of people's businesses. Now, I go back to say 2011, 2012. The majority of my deals were coming in were cold, and that were like FSBO, expired. I mean, I had things where I'd be on the phone, it'd be a wrong number, and like to an expired, and I'm getting someone, and all of a sudden I'm turning them into a buyer. I mean, so a lot of that. At this point, I would say that probably 75% of our deals are coming in from some type of referred basis. That's, you know, past client referral. We also, I made it really trying to develop a lot of business relationships and trying to work with those people. I'm in a BNI group, which for me has been great. For some agents, they don't do very well in that. For us, we've done very well in the BNI group. So it's really a natural evolution, and hopefully that's an evolution that it's, I think it can be a lot more fun, and then having to, you know, strap on the armor every day and go battle it out with the FSBOs. I think Colton, you probably agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. In 2012, I did 52 deals, 37 of them were for sell by owners. And I mean, that's
nuts, man. That's fantastic. I mean,
I had to hustle to get those deals, man. And it's,
oh yeah. I mean,
it was
sometimes
fun, but it sucked.
Yeah, it's fun because you and I think both, we talked about this before. Whenever we get a FSBO, we're always super happy. Like, yeah, you know, we've like got that. You know, it's a great victory, right? It's a really good victory to get that. But at the same time, I mean, you're really, boy. And the interesting thing is, in our market where we live, compared to the rest of the country, we have tons of FSBOs. And anyone else in this call knows that. And sometimes in their markets, they don't have like FSBO. What are you talking about? We get like one or two. No, we get tons of FSBOs here. But at the same time, man, it can feel like brain damage, you know, when you're on the phone. Like,
and they're cocky suckers too, especially in this type of market, man. So yesterday I was calling a list that I had created. It was called Pending FSBOs, which for sell by owners I'd spoken with, either set an appointment with or spoke with it, or had already gone under contract. And I like to call them back a couple weeks later to see how their transaction's going. I had 4 of them that had fallen out of contract, but had already resold their house for sell by owner. And it's like, holy crap, man, I can't believe this is happening in this market. So I guess a quick moral of the story is, for sell by owners built my business, but man, I'm so thankful for that natural evolution of referrals.
Yeah,
do you feel the same way?
That's the great thing. But I think also you have to be, I see some agents who haven't made that evolution are still pounding that stuff, and they have to, because they're not doing the things to treat their past clients and stay in touch with them, and to really, I mean, those are relationships you have with those people, and you need to treat those like, you know, those are great relationships. And what do? You need to like stay in touch with them. You need to, you know, do whatever you can to help them out. I mean, we're always like, I'm on the phone. Hey, what do you need? Is there any vendor we can help with? We've got tons of great vendors. We've got whatever we can do to help them and show that we care, and show that we care about them. And that's the key thing. Do you care about them? Not just about you getting commission. I got someone who called me up last week, and I'm trying to help them with their house, and I really want them to be in a position where we can figure out what to do so they don't have to sell, because I don't want them to sell, because it's not what's best for them. If we have to, we'll do it, and that's great. And I'll be great, I'll get paid, but And I think that's a mindset that not too many agents have, or that more agents should have.
So I got just a couple more questions before I start going off some of the questions from those watching. As you talk about relationships and nurturing those relationships, it's not really about the output, it's about the input, right? Your roots determine your fruits. How about relationships with other realtors? How do you have relationships? Do you manage those relationships? Are they beneficial for you? Tell me just real quick on that.
Well, you know, I think Colton, obviously meeting you has been really great, and I consider you a good friend, and you and I have done some business together. We're trying to do some business on a couple of things right now, actually, and so that's been really great. I have a handful of other agents that I do get some business with, and that actually is one of the surprises to me. I thought, oh, I don't want to, hang with the other agent. I mean, it is great, first of all, to meet other agents that are doing lots of business, and because there's always things you can learn, and that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, you potentially can do business with them. I've got a couple agents in this office where I've got listed homes where they're, and they're like, hey, I've got this lead, and they weren't really comfortable, or maybe they're out of town, or when I've listed homes, and I've got another agent in a market away from here that's like St. George that refers me stuff. And I think being that person in your office that they know and can trust, and will know that do the best thing for their client, I think that is helpful. And I think all of them know that I'm not going to like screw over their client for a commission or anything like that. That I'm vested in making sure that those relationships that are going to be there, and that's going to be a good, it's going to be a good outcome and good process for their client.
I think the one thing I see, and I've got a lot of business from other realtors just from staying in touch with them, but the one thing that I look for, and I see this with you because I've contacted you on stuff, is not only are you going to treat people right, but I know you can close it, right? I know you can get it done. Right. I know it's going to what has to happen to go from A to Z can be done with the Joe Reardon sales team. So I want to open it up to a couple questions. I got one from Roy Harrell. He's a realtor with Keller Williams in Westside Realty. He asked, what prospecting methods work best for you and your team?
What prospecting methods work best for me and our team?
For
okay.
You and team.
So great. So it depends where you are in that life cycle. I think the thing is that we have to develop the people around us. We have to know the people that we know that we already have relationships with. We need to develop all of those things. We need to write all those things down. We need to have a database, and then we need to call that database. We need to email that database. We need to, stay in touch with them in every way possible and nurture those relationships. Make sure they know that we're selling real estate. Make sure that they also know that, we're trying to do something for them. Because I think part of that thing is on the database calls I see sometimes on some calls, and how do I say this? Well, I've seen some ferry agents when we've talked that those calls can be kind of like gimme, 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 and it can't be gimme, gimme, gimme. It has to be, hey, I really want to stay in touch with you, develop a relationship. I want to provide things that are value to you. So those things first of all. Then you have to deal with what are the cold leads and how are you going to prospect those for sale by owner, expired, traffic driven to your website. However you're going to do that, if you're going to pay for some of those leads. I'm not a huge fan of paying for leads. I don't really do much of that. So you need to nurture that database. Now, if your database is not big, you're going to have to get on the phone and call people you don't know, whether it's a just listed call, whether that's a for sale by owner, whether it's an expired, and you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to learn your scripts. So I think its main thing is, first of all, just doing it. Second of all, learning your scripts, learning what you're saying, how you're saying, being conversational, and then putting a plan together to do that. I have a plan. On Mondays, I call top 50 business people or top 50 favorite people. Then Tuesdays is all current client calls and going over everything in the transaction and asking for referrals. So one of the things with that is, hey, Colton, great. So I just want to give you an update where we are here. We got your house under contract. We've they came through the inspection. We've gotten through that, right? Everything's good, and we're looking good.
Yeah.
Just, you know, everything seems to be on track here, where everything's going great. Do you have any questions for us right now?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, great. And I mean, that's what we want to make sure we're treating you in the best possible way, because we want to earn a 10 from you on this transaction. So at this point, are we earning a 10 from you on this transaction?
Yeah, I think so. You guys are in touch with us on a regular basis, and you're really helping us out.
So Colton promised me this. If we are not earning a 10 from you, you're going to let me know, right?
Yeah, I definitely will let you know.
Perfect. Okay, so I mean, we want to make sure we're earning that 10 for you, because we really, really care about you and your family. I want to make sure we're doing the best possible thing. So that's about it for now. We're promised we'll be back in touch next week. Now, just one other thing. I mean, I'm so glad we're earning a 10. I'm just curious, do you know anyone else that could benefit from what we do? Who do you know? Who do you know right now that's maybe looking to buy or sell?
Okay, yeah, I can't think of anyone, but we'll definitely send them your way, because we've enjoyed our time with you guys for sure, our experience.
Perfect. Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate you thinking about that. And, you know, and you're just going to go through, because you're asking current client referrals. I realized that we were not doing a good job getting current client referrals. And so we had to have a system and process scripted to go through that. So then on Wednesdays,
yeah,
and we're going to go through, Wednesdays we're going to be through database. Thursdays we have a top past client list that's not available in the database. And then Fridays we're really kind of going and trying to develop those and call some of the whale leads, and then also cold calls and other. So there's definitely a process we have in terms of what we're trying to call in the days we're trying to do it.
And that's probably evolved in 2015 from 2012, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. In 2011, 2012, it was just like, man, I got to get on the phone and I got to make things happen. It was calling FSBOs every single day, expireds, trying to get their numbers. You know, whether you're Vulcan 7 or Red X, trying to do that. And we still do some of that. And I'm going to be doing some of that.
What was the tipping point? The time from when you didn't hit as much as the expireds and FSBOs as you used to where you're doing more of your top 50 and your which, by the way, current customers is so overlooked by agents. You need to be really working that system for referrals. A lot of my great referrals come from my current client, current and active clients. So
I totally agree.
So what was the tipping point transactions? Like when you were doing what, 30 transactions, 50 transactions? When did it start to shift?
I think it was about there. And it was also too when I had enough transactions that had already banked, and I had enough of a database, and I had enough of past clients, enough of people to actually, you know, go out to, because you figure every person that you got in your database that you have a good relationship with, they hopefully know 250 people, right? So you're really trying to mine all of their databases, you know, of people. And so that is, I mean, Colton, you would agree. I think that's the best way for us to get business. But then we've got to generate all the other media business, converting sign calls. I mean, that's another thing. I don't know how you feel about sign calls. I think sign calls are unbelievable. And
thanks to you, Joe. Thanks to you, Joe. Now all of the sign calls are actually handled with inside of my sales team. So we have made that transition, and I bet you we've closed 3 or 4 deals off of it this year, thanks to that from you.
Well,
so
yeah, last year we closed 15 deals off sign calls. And because I realized the year before, man, we closed hardly any, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. So we really focused on that. Sign calls, you gotta treat those. You gotta get on the phone, get them, and talk to them. And I mean, they're calling for a reason. They want to buy a house, right? Or they might have to sell.
And a lot of times they have a house to sell.
Yeah. So I mean, those are great leads, and but you have to have deals in order to get those.
Let's say you get the looky-loo, that's still, you can add them into your database, right?
Absolutely.
And now you're mining them.
And the looky-loo is someone in that area, usually, in that subdivision, right? And so then they see.
So let's go back. The question is, to answer Roy in a nutshell, depending on your level of transactions and number of deal closures, you're either going to be doing a lot more colder leads. If you've been in the business, you know, a few years and have banked your closings, then you can start working your SOI. But either way, your focus should be create a database and start building it. It is a garden that you grow with time. and just nurture that. So I think
and now I would say the vast majority of agents don't do that in an effective way. I think everyone, I mean, my challenge here is, look, I moved out here, and my wife and I with our daughter are fairly involved in that in terms of just taking care of her. So we don't have a ton of outside people that we know. So I look at people that have lived, you know, here where I am in like Salt Lake area, lived their whole life. I'm like, oh my gosh, why don't you have your huge database? I mean, they aren't doing it. They're afraid to call them. They're afraid to talk about it. If you have the skills, you know what you're doing as an agent, you need to be able to talk to those people and let them know and cultivate that from day one. Now, day one, you might not have great skills, and great knowledge. You've got to learn, you're gonna have to learn what you need to know so that you can be that person of value. So that's another part of it too. Once you can be that person of value to those people, then you've actually have something good to talk to them about. And you know, that takes a little bit of time, and there's different ways you can do that too. But that's the one thing from day one. And the other thing too is then getting on the phone, and you got the cold and the warm. Your warm is your SOI. Your cold is the people you don't know that you've got to talk to, and you've got to do that at a high level quickly from day one.
Great. So Roy, just to follow up on one of his questions was, do you recommend, and just a short answer on this, do you recommend that new agents join top producing sales teams?
So as a brand new agent in the business, yes. I think that's a great idea. Because most places that you're not going to get a lot of education. I think joining with someone where you know you're going to have a chance to learn. Now the question is, how much contact you're going to have with that person? Some of the teams that are huge, that are 16, 17 people, are you truly going to have a lot of contact with that team leader who hopefully, I mean, it just depends where you are. Hopefully that person has a lot of knowledge, hopefully, and a lot of experience, be able to like impart that to you. I would say if you are going to do that, it's probably better to join a team where that person has evolved in their own business and is not just doing something like buying a zillion 100 leads for you and just having you go at it. That would be kind of my personal opinion on that, because then you have a chance to actually learn that from someone, because your goal is to be able to learn this business and not have to buy the business. Absolutely.
Okay, Jeremy Crit asked the question, if I can get it. What 3 things that Joe recommends that new agents do starting from day one to create a successful career in real estate?
Okay, first of all, figure out who you know, write that down, get all their information. First and foremost, you got to do that. You got to know all those people that you know. And here's the other thing. I think you need to sit. There's actually Buffini has a way of doing this that they've taught in their things, and which is you really go in and you sit in a dark room or whatever. You turn off a light or whatever, get a pad so you can write and just start writing down names. And don't judge the names. Just start writing down names. Go spend like half an hour, write down all the names you can think of. Okay, I don't even care if they're in the state. Just write down all the names you can think of. Then take a break, go walk around for a little bit, come back to the pad of paper. All those names. Now look at every single one of those names. No judgment yet, anything about it. Each one of those names, because I know, Colton Lindsay. Who else do I know because I know Colton Lindsay? And then write down that other list of names like that. And now my hope is that you're going to get somewhere between 200 to 300 or 400 names by the time you're all done. And don't judge it yet. Then start getting all the information. And then you can start putting a process together to do that. And the other thing is start learning your scripts and start getting on the phone, calling people you don't know, and learn what that's like and learn how to do that. And so I think those are the top 2 things right out of the gate is you got to get focused on lead generation, because without that, you're going to die.
One is, a list of all the people you know to start your database. Mm-hmm. 2 is get on the phones and start calling people. And so then probably 3 would be start mastering your scripts, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that would be the third thing is I think from day one, you need to start mastering your scripts, mastering a database script. I mean, there's plenty of ones around. And I would almost say that you could, before you go on the phone, spend a week, okay? Spend a week mastering a script of database and mastering a script of just, you could do some for sale by or expired or just listed, and that's probably okay to just learn on the fly with that. With your database, you really want to master a script and have some of those things before you start getting on the phone with them, because those are people you already know. I mean, there's plenty of other people that you don't know that you can practice on, but I would say get a good script that you're going with your database and talk to, some people of doing that and go over that script with them and master that, have it be conversational so you know what you're going to say when you get on the phone with them.
And probably get involved with some sort of coaching or training. I know probably from the beginning, you've definitely been involved with coaching. You do coaching now, right? As well.
I do. I'm actually probably looking to bring on, 2 or 3 other people. 2010 was a I sold 14 and I didn't have a plan and I was just freaked out. And then I came over to our office here in 2011. All of a sudden I started having a plan and I started having some models. And I because I was at a small brokerage, I was like the only one selling. I mean, we had a broker who lived, I think I was like really the only agent. And we had a broker who lived in California. I mean, it was just, there was nothing going on. And even if you go to other brokerages that are big, you don't really get that training. So yeah, getting involved in coaching is a great thing for people. And that I think is probably one of the huge things. If you can get involved with something, you have the ability to do that from day one, that will help you because you need mentors, you need people to help you. I mean, when I was a musician, I went and I stayed with the best people around. I mean, I stayed with the principal trumpet in the New York Philharmonic. And then a guy who was taught at Northwestern, he was one of the leading trumpet teachers really in the world. His name was Vincent Chikowitz at that time. And it was being exposed to that and then being exposed to the other people that were with that too. So getting involved in something like that is really
important. Following and learning and studying from someone that has the proven results of what you're trying to accomplish in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we all need models. We don't need to invent the wheel. I mean, I think sometimes people get involved in real estate and they really want to do it because they think, oh, I'm going to have so much freedom. I'm going to be able to do what I want to do and all the time. And real estate is a business. It's got a high failure rate. And so putting the odds in your favor, getting involved with people who have done this before, you can model and who you can trust, I think is paramount.
So I'll put a plug in right below if you're watching on the lead page, on the Winning the Inner Game page through lead pages, there's a button. Click here to join the Fearless Agent Movement. One of the best value ways of coaching you can get involved for $3.25 a day. That's $97 a month. Get involved. Back to Jeremy Crete's question. He said he was actually asking that question. I'm just going to answer this for you, Joe, in the context of where I would be moving to an area where I do not know people. And Jeremy, I don't know if the whole point with Joe is he was not from here. He moved here from New York, right? Manhattan. Moved here from Manhattan, did not know anyone in 2010 when he started his business to where he's at in 2015. So that's what he's saying. Go down and write a list of everyone you know, whether they're in the state or not. Just start creating a list of people you know and start building that database. So you'll be surprised that when you ask yourself these questions, how you can from nothing create something. The impossible becomes possible, the invisible becomes visible. Right. So just get started.
That's a great point. And in 2011, I was trying to put my database together when I got over this office, and I had like 25 people in it, and that was stupid. I even, we definitely knew more people than that, and so I think that's one thing you got to get together, and you got to figure out. You need to figure out how to call them in an appropriate way. Yeah. So I mean, I think those are.
So whether it's starting with 25 or 250, start with the number of people you have and get going. Yeah. Here's one more question, and then we'll end up wrapping it up from Reynaldo Ruiz. He says, how soon would you call back an expired listing or for sale by owner after being rejected? Would you call back or continue on with other new ones?
All right, Colton, you and I should both answer this question. So expired and FSBOs. In our area here, FSBOs, man, they're getting so many calls. They can't even remember the agents they rejected. I mean, you could probably, in my area here, if I'm getting on the phone and I hit that guy at like 9 a.m., people start calling at 8, he's probably had like 12 calls first day FSBO. And so I really wouldn't worry about that, to tell you the truth. And unless you made some really big impression on him, most of the time he's rejecting everyone. So I don't think that's a huge problem. I think you're making more of that of being a problem than it really is. FSBO's expired. I mean, you know.
Well, the thing is too with a FSBO and an expired is sometimes it's just a timing issue, right? You don't know if that dude got a flat tire on the way to work right before you called him, or if all of a sudden his motivation just increased because he got his job transfer to come through, right? You don't know what's going on in his life. So it's a lot of it's just timing, just staying in touch with people. So
totally. And the other thing too is like, look, we're all at home. We get calls for stuff that we don't want. I mean, how do we act?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, oh, well, thank you so much for calling. I'm so thanks. You know, I really want to buy this new blender. You know, great. You know, I mean, no, we're doing the same thing. So I think if you can think about it from that perspective, just like, you know, just have a little bit of humor with it and understand that, like, yeah, you know, you're not going to be for everyone, and you got to catch them the right time, and I wouldn't really worry about it.
Yeah, amen. So get on the phones. So the answer is yes, call them back. And what I do is I call people back until I realize I just hate them. That's a good reason I don't call them back. One is they've listed with someone else, or two is they've sold their house already. Otherwise, they're still getting calls from me, and I just have a database of for sale by owners, about 500 for sale by owners. I'm constantly calling, following up with some of the hotter ones or the warmer ones where I had a little bit better connection. Then I'll do a little bit more customized follow-up process with them. But for the most part, it's just calling them. And I mean, I've called for sell by owners that have been in my list for 2 years. All of a sudden now I'm setting an appointment, and they're sitting down and signing a listing contract with me.
Right. And the other thing about that too is that you and I both know, right? Like some of the best for sale by owners that you might get them on maybe the 7th or 8th call sometimes, or even if it is a first day call, you got to battle. If it's a first day call and I'm on the phone with them for like 40 minutes and I've tried closing them and I've closed them like 9 times, and like on the 10th time I finally get an appointment, boy, I know most agents are not willing to do that. And then you know you've got a good one. So I mean, the whole rejection thing with for sale by owners, I mean, it's you know, and we all know it's difficult to some degree, and some degree if you can make a game out of it and do it, you're gonna be a lot better off. But you know,
make a game out of it. Yeah, and just be okay with getting rejected. Don't go to every appointment like, I've got to get this appointment. You know, it's not about getting every one. It's about getting it's about getting 100 deals or whatever your goal is this year. And just get used to being rejected. Be the best at being rejected, and know that you're going to be rejected, and just keep calling people.
Yeah, what is it? The more rejection you can handle is directly proportionate to the amount of money you'll make.
Yeah, that's why I got such an amazing wife, dude, because I was rejected so many times before. I just kept going and going, you know what I mean? So, okay, Joe, hey, I appreciate you being on this interview. Appreciate everything you do and all the advice you gave out to all these agents. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, Joe, send your referrals to Salt Lake City. How can they do that?
So that's great. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Colton, it's been great. I consider you a great friend in my life. It's been great getting to know you. You're one of the funniest guys I know. When we have some of the calls, like you just get me laughing like crazy. So my cell phone number is 801-608-9224. So that's 801-608-9224. My email is Reardon, reardon.realtor@gmail.com. And our website is www.joereardon.com. And thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so you could get a hold of Joe, whether to send referrals to Salt Lake City, or even if I think you mentioned he has 2 or 3 openings for coaching clients. You know, I don't know what you charge or what your program is, but you can call him and get in touch with him with that. Thanks, guys, for watching the Winning Series interview. Make sure to be a part of the Fearless Agent group page on Facebook. Also coming up this Tuesday is another free training teleseminar you can register for. And next Friday, actually, we're doing a live event at the Landmark Home Warranty headquarters in South Jordan, Utah. It's a 3-hour free event on the 5 presentations, so you guys can come to that as well. Join the Fearless Agent movement. Thanks, guys, and have a great Memorial weekend. We'll see you.
Thanks so much.